Quick joke.
You got it. Okay, we are back live and we are in version two of our hockey hotline on this morning of July 12th. And much like the Buffalo Sabres and many of their off seasons, we just had a little blurp in the system. So it's kind of fitting for how things have been going up in Saberland over these last 14 years. But hey, we are back here on this Saturday morning to discuss some Buffalo Sabre rumors with you, the offseason that has been, and we'll talk about maybe some other players that could still be available. I know it looks pretty bleak right now. In some respects, for a lot of Sabre fans, if you look at the offseason, Matt and I did get into the JJ Paterka trade in detail before we left for break. And of course, a lot of our thoughts were it wasn't a bad trade, but it's also contingent on what else do the Sabres do? Who else could the Buffalo Sabres get for another top six forward? Is it a long-term option like a Marco Rossi? Is it a veteran guy? Maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins look like they are going to be cleaning house. So could the Buffalo Sabres go after the Penguins to get themselves a Brian Rust or a Ricard Raquel, who's going to have a little bit of a higher price? So there are plenty of options out there, but there are a lot of problems with that we're going to get into as well. So here, if you're in the comments, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you're thinking about the Buffalo Sabres. Me standing here for an hour or sitting here for an hour, whatever you want to say, talking about this team can be pretty tiresome, but we're going to go piece by piece and kind of look at things after July. But I want to take a high level look at the Buffalo Sabres in general and the off season. And I had some comments on how we have to start looking at the off season now in the NHL. About 15, 20 years ago when we hit July 1st, it was almost like Christmas morning. You woke up, you had 50, 60 moves, you had tons of signings all over the place, you had UFAs, you had trades, and the like, right? Now, since the hard salary cap has come in, obviously we have seen changes on a lot of fronts, some good, some not so good. We've seen some of the low tax markets. We talk about that ad nauseum and the advantages, the built-in advantages they have to add about $8 to $12 million more of AAV versus even a New York. So it's interesting to see how that's changed things. And now instead of the New Yorks and Toronto's getting first dibs on guys like Mitch Marner, it's Vegas, it's Dallas, it's Florida. I mean, whoever thought we'd be in this kind of world? Now, when you look at this offseason, salary cap's going up a little bit more than usual. And in the next couple of years, it's going to go even higher. So on that front, you're going to see some players that might be hesitant to sign long-term deals with teams because they know the bigger paydays could be coming. So that's just one thing in particular that we're seeing. So the other big change to the off seasons, and this is a frustration that I have with the NHL in general. And if you go to puckpedia.com and if you just go over rosters, for example, guys like on our team, Jordan Greenway, Jason Zucker, they have no move clauses. The no move clauses have absolutely deterred any particular movement. And we have a comment. What exactly is July 1st? Well, it's the start of unrestricted free agency in terms of the first day that you could talk to UFAs and things like that. So that used to be Christmas for, and I know what Matt's saying there. It just feels like, hey, what is that again? So, and we're getting to an overall point here. So the fact that there's so many no trade movements, and I'll give you an example. Let's tie this into our Buffalo Sabres. The Buffalo Sabres, I am sure, and I'm sure if we had cameras inside their war rooms and talked to Kevin Adams off the topic, if we were able to see, they may have been going after more players than we realize. We don't have a clue on that, as not a lot of that information is leaked. But even if they do, in some cases, for example, let's say they had a deal in place for it could be anybody, right? I mean, let's just look at Anaheim, for example, Troy Terry. Troy Terry is a very solid right winger. He's 27. He makes $7 million a year for the next 5 years. Let's say the Sabres had a trade in place with the Anaheim Ducks. Well, he has a modified no trade clause. He could just say, no, trade is over. That's it. I mean, you look at their roster. They have Frank Vetrano, Kilhorn, Kreider, McGranulin, guys like Jacob Trouba, Racco Gudis. They have so many no movement clauses. So it really limits on who the Buffalo Sabres could target in trades. And it's not just the Buffalo Sabres aren't alone, folks. There are other teams as well. Now, what causes this frustration for the Sabres is something that I think some Sabre fans miss the boat on out there on Twitter. And I call them Sabre apologists. They're like, well, what could the Sabres do? What is Kevin Adams going to do? What is Terry Pagula going to do? But the Buffalo Sabres have laid down this path based on the terrible decisions they've made for over 15 years now. Example, same market, same weather, same taxes, same lack of palm trees. How come the Buffalo Bills don't have a problem bringing players in? Now, I know that they don't have there's not a lot of no movement clauses, but this is a team that you could see the culture over there. You could see the locker room. You could see the what's going on. They are able to attract players to come into Buffalo. Now, not every player is going to want to play for Buffalo, no matter how good the Sabres are or not. There are certain players that maybe just don't want to be there. That's fine. But if the Buffalo Sabres were the old Sabres as we knew back in the mid 2000s, the 90s, you could bet your bottom dollar the Sabres would have been able to make a trade by now. So it's what Pagula has set up going forward. And I want to say hello to my buddy here, Real Deal Prime. It's always great to see you. I love that logo. It always puts a smile on my face when I see the late, great, one and only Rick Jeanneret on my screen. So I miss him every day. So great to see him. And I just want to bring up and our other friend of the show, and I always love Steve's comments here. Steve is one of our best as well. You're both great, by the way. Drafting 17-year-olds that are years away from the NHL, if a team develops like they should, makes no trade clauses even worse for parity and teams turning the corner. I could not agree more, Steve. The Buffalo Sabres are really in a corner right now. I know we're frustrated. I know we want to go out and say, hey, let's go get a Sidney Crosby. Let's go out and get, I'm just naming some weird names here in terms of, and has somebody made an appearance? Oh, all right. I thought maybe we had a special guest coming into the back channels, but and it's so true, Steve. It's really limited on what the Buffalo Sabres can do. And that also ties in to another problem that the Buffalo Sabres have had, and that's the development of their players and letting guys go at the wrong times before they really take their next step. That's been a big problem in Saberland as well for a long time, is that it's the you remember how what we did with Devin Levi when he first got here. We brought him up for those 7 games. He teased us, had some great moments in that run where we almost made the playoffs. And I think a lot of us got way ahead of ourselves, including myself, about how great Devin Levi could be. Now he's been in Rochester, he's been developing pretty nicely. And this is what they probably should have done from jump, where maybe he shouldn't have even been with the team at all. Let him be down there, season as much as possible, and he's continuing to improve his game. Now he's 23, so we'll see if he could come up now, maybe this year, maybe next year, and we're going to get into one of the moves the Sabres made. So I want to start again. We're looking at the Sabres as a whole, as an organization, before we get into the offseason. Now, I don't know if you saw Craig Rivet and Andrew Peters' recent podcast this week, but they talked about something about Brendan Shanahan. And Brendan Shanahan supposedly was told, allegedly by Terry Pagula, that we already have a director or a president of hockey operations, and it's him. Now, I know a lot of Sabre fans out there do not want to hear about their denial. I feel like, oh, there's no way Pagula would say that. There's no way that that would be the case. But if you look at the actions of this franchise since 2010, is it really that hard to believe that Terry Pagula would not say that? Not for me, it isn't. Because of some of the yes men that he has in the organization, the lack, this how he scaled down things after COVID with the scouting, etc., and all the other moves, some of the kickbacks and cutbacks that they've made. Is it really hard to believe that Terry Pagula doesn't feel that he's the guy that's going to make these decisions? All I'm saying is, I know there's some people out there say, "Oh, that can't be. It's just Reve and Peters being Reve and Peters." But what I like about Reve and Peters is they tell you things you may not want to hear, but we need to hear them, right? And these guys were in the organization. They They understand what it is. So I'm not saying they're always right. I'm just saying I'm gonna listen. My eyebrow went up when I heard that. Interesting, because I would love a Brendan Shanahan to be the face of the Buffalo Sabres right now. Maybe he wants to be in the area. Wouldn't it be great if we had someone like that on that? So, and I'll tell you what, wow, this comment right here, wow, you know what, Steve? I didn't even want to go down that road, but a muted Jerry Jones, I'll tell you what, that is something that, in terms of hockey, what's weird about Terry Pagula is you look at what he's doing with the Bills. Now, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, they just got Josh Allen, they got lucky." You could say that about a ton of owners. And Matt is, I love Matt at work, still behind the scenes doing his thing as always. The great Matt Diegert. So, but he's right. I agree, Steve. I think it's a it's a comment that a lot of us are not going to be comfortable with, but it's true. Now, what's weird about Pagula is with the Bills, he gives them all the resources. Now, they're under a different umbrella. The NFL makes a ton of money, right? The TV money, they're getting the stadium money now. Um, NFL is a totally different animal than, let's say, the NHL. The NHL is very dependent on the gate. About 40%, I think, of their revenue. A lot of it is dependent, like, for example, the NFL could have half empty arenas and they're still going to make money. It's just not, it's not the same animal. But and you look at the job that Terry Pagula did, as he has really helped the Penn State hockey program, and now they have the great Gavin McKenna, who's got the prize of the 2026 lottery, making 700,000 from NIL to play for Penn State hockey. So you can see what's going on there in that respect. I mean, so who is Terry Pagula and what is his involvement with this organization? That's the first thing this organization needs to fix. We could talk about goaltending, we could talk about Kevin Adams, we could talk about everything. It has to start with Terry Pagula. What is his involvement? How much of a meddler is he? And will he hire the right people here to be the face of the organization where he could take a step back, be the fan that he wants to be, and let him run the things? We don't know that. That's the unknown. It's like with the New York Jets in football. The New York Jets have had some talent over the last 14 years. But the problem is Woody Johnson, he's a terrible owner. He's horrible. And that's why the New York Jets continue to struggle and they continue to go round and around, on this, hamster wheel, so to speak. They just continue trying to get out of it, and they can't get out of it because underneath them is that terrible ownership. The Buffalo Sabres fans have to come to realization Terry Pagula needs to answer this, and Terry Pagula needs to get the hell out of the way, and he needs to hire someone here who could be the face. We need guys like Brendan Shanahan would be a great hire. We could have brought in a guy like Ken Holland as a general manager who, say what you want about him, he's got a lot of experience. He's making weird moves with the Kings right now, but he did that with the Oilers too, and we see what happened. The Oilers took that next step. He was a little bit criticized at times. So I know I'm getting a little bit off the path, but I hope you understand where I'm going. Pagula is the number one thing we gotta fix, and that's what causes frustrating off seasons, terrible trades. Reinhardt's leaving, Eichel's leaving, not paying for his fusion surgery. It starts with Terrence Pagula above all for me. I can't get past it. So I'm hoping that some of the moves that he's made in terms of bringing in Jarmo this offseason, I'm hoping that, yeah, Pagula needs to use a fantasy hockey league as his outlet instead of Sabres. Yeah, listen, Terry, I want Terry to take his victory laps on the new beautiful stadium in Orchard Park. I want Terry to take his victory laps with the great Josh Allen and one of the most likable teams I've ever watched in my life, this current Buffalo Bills team. I want him to take his victory laps with that. He's done a good job with that. We can't take that away from him. He is the owner. He is part of what's going on there. So we can't just say, "Oh, he's lucky with the Bills, but terrible with the Sabres." Like we can't have it both ways, right? He's done some. He's a mixed bag owner, in my opinion, right now. So we'll have to see, how it goes going forward. But let's get off that for a second. Now, let's move into some of the moves that they've made. Now, we did talk about a little bit about Devin Levi, and they brought in a guy named Alex Leone. And Matt, our fearless leader here, said Alex Leone will be the starter. Could be. Alex Leone was a very I will say I will grade that as a very nice move for the Buffalo Sabres. The one thing that Kevin Adams has done pretty well since he's been here is acquiring that cheap veteran goaltender. We did it with Craig Anderson, where he was pretty solid. We did it with James Reimer. So we've done some good moves there. Not that that takes a lot of skill to do that as a general manager, but he's done a pretty nice job there. I'll give him some. We're not going to bash Kevin Adams here for over an hour. I can get. We're gonna bash him. Don't worry. There, Matt will be here, and we'll be back in our new date and time. We'll have plenty of time over the summer to bash Alex Leon, which is becoming a pastime here on our podcast. But Leon is a guy that has shown some flashes at times. Last year, 14-9-1, 2.81, 8.96 on a pretty okay Detroit team. He's a veteran who's been around. I loved his interview. I like his attitude and personality. And that's one thing we're going to get into here about some of the changes we're seeing with the Sabres. So, he's only had 113 games in his career. He's 51, 38, and 11. He's a backup. He's a solid backup. He's had a few shutouts. He's got some moments of brilliance at times. Don't expect the world out of him going forward. But Matt Diegert saying Alex Leo will be the starter and help break the drought. So and Eric Anthony here, want to welcome you here. And maybe this is true. That's a good point. He was going to the Kings all along. Very possible, Eric. And I guess my only thought is if the thing about Brendan Shanahan is true, right? And the fact that they didn't want to get rid of Kevin Adams, maybe he wasn't interested. He probably wanted the keys to the keys. Like, here, Terry, give me the keys to everything, and I'll handle it. But you could very well be right, Eric. That's a very good point, and welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you here. Want to hear more? Anything you got to say? This is what we want. We want you all to be. This is an interactive podcast. This isn't just about me. This isn't just about Matt. I want to hear from you on a lot of things. So, and just to come back to what Steve said earlier, and I want to get this comment up here about Zach Benson. A lot of criticism of fans, and I don't know why either. I mean, but yeah, there's some things that Zach Benson does on the ice where he shows a maturity to his game, even with his baby face. He looks like, he's 10 years old at times out there. But I agree, Steve. I think the best is coming for Zach. I feel like it's going to be one of those years where maybe it's this year, where maybe listen, he's not going to go from 30 points to 80. But what if I told you Zach Benson gets to about 45, 50 points this year, right? Starts getting top 6 minutes. He starts taking his game to a little bit of a next level. He had 28 points in 75 games this past season. I'm hoping he can get those numbers closer to 50, maybe 45, 50. I think he's kind of ready for that at this point. So I'd like to see him take that next step up in his game and maybe start using as to become a very solid top six option on this roster going forward. But I would still ideally like to see Benson take a little lesser role, as I still think he needs a little more seasoning, as we've seen from other players that we have let out of the Buffalo Sabres. Where Sam Reinhart was here, he was, he had good moments till he was 23, but he wasn't brilliant and incredible until he got to 24, 25, 26. I mean, that's the thing about hockey. It takes time to develop. You have to be patient with some of these young kids. Yuri Kulik, guys like Zach Benson. And the other frustrating part is that it's hard for us Sabre fans to be patient because we're on a 14 game drought. And we don't want to wait for a Yuri Kulik. We don't want to wait for a Zach Benson. Some of those guys should have been in Rochester, especially Benson. As much as I love Benson, I wish he was still more in Rochester a little longer, not up with the team, and we eased him in a little bit. So I just hope he's not developing some of those losing habits and getting too frustrated with the losing going forward, like it did maybe with a Dylan Cousins as an example. So Alex Leo, just to circle back, solid move, gives us good options in net. We don't have to force Devin Levi if we don't want to right now. I still think it's good to have a good backup for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I'm still mixed on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Matt's out on him. I still think there's something there with Uka. I want to see a better defensive structure from some of our forwards. I want to see the things that Lindy talks about that were missing from this team last year. Want a little more consistency, especially from the back end of that defense. I think moving Clifton out was a good move. We're going to get into that in a second as well. So overall, I do like the Alex Leo move. So just a couple of the moves, and we're not going to go drag it on all show. A lot of you know the moves that we've made so far. We did the aforementioned trade where we got Connor Timmins from the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's the one guy here. He's 26, 6'2", 214. He's got some talent. He's got some skill. Not a lot of offensive prowess per se, but he's got good numbers in terms of, I believe his analytics are pretty solid. I think he could give us, he's another right-handed shot. So the Sabres are pretty well set now with the right hands on the right-handed shot of the ledger here is something that we really have needed in terms of that. So we saved a little bit of money on moving Clifton, but not that that's really a big issue with this team because they're not weaponizing their cap space. That's something else we could talk about. See, there's always something to talk about with the Buffalo Sabres. So that did save a little money, but I do like what Adams has done with the Kesserling move. I like the Zachary Jones move from getting him from the New York Rangers. He's a left-handed shot, 24 years old. Again, he's got one more year in his ELC. Then he's a restricted free agent for a couple years. So we'll see what they can get out of him. So there are options. And the other reason why I like these moves is if we could push Jacob Bryson off this roster at some point, I'm all for it. So I don't mind him, but I don't think he's an NHL defenseman at this point. So yeah, oh wow. Matt Diegert has said Kevin Adams is almost at the same level as Brad Marchand. Now, if any of you are friends of the show, you know how Matt feels about Brad Marchand. You don't want to bring that up to Matt, or just duck and cover if you do. So, but congratulations, Matt. Brad Marchand is a Florida Panther until he's basically 70. So don't worry about him coming to Buffalo anytime soon. So we don't have to worry about it. Um, but now we're going to get into one of the elephants in the room, and we're going to get into Bowen Byram. Now, and I want to bring up, Steve brought up a great comment here, and I do want to bring that up, and we're going to get into that in a second. So Bowen Byram, as many of you know, has been one of the big talks of a trade. Now, I want to talk about something here for a second about Bowen Byram. JJ Peterka wanted out. Okay, we all know that. Bowen Byram, he wants out for different reasons. He's not unhappy with the Sabres as an organization. He just wants to probably sign a 7, 8 year deal. He feels like his skill set is probably going to be better for another team that could use a number one power play guy or even a number two power play guy. We have Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin kind of blocking that for him. So it's tough to ask the Buffalo Sabres to pay this guy $9 million a year to be basically a third wheel on defense. And I would rather use that money for a forward and then get a better pairing option for Rasmus Dahlin. Rasmus Dahlin doesn't need a lot he's a great one. I mean, I'm not sure if a lot of us really understand how great Rasmus Dahlin is, or at least some in Buffalo area. Like this guy is a special, special talent. And I'm okay with getting a solid option there, just a good veteran that understands what he's got to do. Think Teppo Noonan for all you older Sabre fans, that kind of defenseman. Like I want someone like that for Rasmus. Doesn't need to be flashy. We don't need a $9 million option playing next to him at all. So the Buffalo Sabres, I'm sure that there were a lot of rumors out there about trading Bowen Byram. Sometimes we heard from Friedman that the market was a little softer than we thought. I mean, who knows? I mean, Ellie Friedman hears a lot of things, and sometimes he gets stuff right, sometimes he doesn't, just like anybody else. And there were a lot of strong whispers, quote unquote, that a lot of teams were considering offer sheets. Now, the key to this, and I know a lot of Sabre fans jumped on Kevin Adams for taking the offer sheet off the table and they elected to file for salary arbitration with him, and he's an RFA. I didn't go crazy about it. I actually thought it's probably it tells me one of two things. Number one, the Buffalo Sabres are not interested in getting trade draft assets for Bowen Byram. And for me, that's music to my ears. And I think a lot of you would feel the same way. We're tired of draft picks. We're tired of thinking about the future. We're tired of developing guys for 4 or 5 years. We've done that at nauseum, and we still got some good players in the system. It's getting a little drier than it has been in recent years, but that's because of some graduations up to the Sabres and things like that. But So that's a good sign to me. And in terms of what the offer sheets were going to be, they probably weren't going to be for $9 million. The probably some if I had to guess, some of the speculation or the whispers, some of these teams may have made a 1 or 2 year offer sheet to Bowen Byram, and the compensation would have been a lot less than, let's say, a first or second or third round pick for Bowen Byram. Some of the Buffalo Sabres wouldn't have been interested in. It would have been put them in a terrible predicament where they would have to keep him for 2 years and then or let him go for the compensation they really don't want in the first place. So I think it was the right call by Adams. And again, I don't say that too often around here, but I think it was an okay move. I didn't have any problem with them doing that to electing to file for salary arbitration. So here we are. We still have Bowen Byram. Now they can still keep him too. That's option one. You could keep Bowen Byram, right? For like a year or so. You're still gonna have the trade deadline coming up. And with the salary cap going higher and higher, he's gonna be worth something. But here's the problem. There's other young defensemen coming up through all these other teams that are also gonna have value too. I think the time is now, and this comes to what Steve said. We still need to make two trades. A Byram deal needs us to get, and this is the name that I love, Jared McCann from the Seattle Kraken. Steve, I love this thought. Jared McCann would be an excellent move for the Buffalo Sabres. Guy just puts the puck in the net. He's a solid veteran. He's got some versatility. He could play center and wing, which I think is something that would be nice on this team to have that versatility. Because Josh Norris is a guy that he has injury problems. So just nice to have that flexibility where we can move guys up and down on that. And I would like, and I love the lingering idea from San Jose. We'll see how that goes. And how about San Jose signing Jeff Skinner yesterday? That was interesting. So Jeff Skinner, I guess, got tired of making the playoffs and nope, going to San Jose. Want to be back to making no playoffs. So this is the kind of thing that I agree with Steve on. Now I know Seattle could use some defensive help, but they do have some guys that are expiring on the books. Is Jared McCann a top center? Well, I'm not really so sure about that, and that's something that leads to Matt's other comment here. Josh Norris is a second line center, and they still need number one center. I would agree, Matt, and that's something that Yuri Kulich. I'm sorry, he's not ready to be number one center. I like Yuri Kulich, okay, but he is not ready for that role right now. So we're going to get into Yuri Kulik a little bit later in the show because I have an idea that may upset some of you, but I don't care because I like this idea. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. So yeah, Steve Brandmore said as Kevin has palm trees and no taxes for the rest of his career. Yes, he does. And Matt has this face. So Matt, don't get too sick at work, or maybe you can take a sick day. The Saber talk, you could say, hey, you're not feeling well, Matt, at your new job. The Saber talk just got to me a little bit. So anyway, we're about 30 minutes in, so if you're here, we're happy to have you here. Love talking Saber hockey with you all. It's weird doing this without Matt, and I miss him dearly, but I'm glad he is in the comments firing away, and it makes my day. So again, want to keep hearing from all of you about any ideas you have about trades in particular. Um, Now the one guy that Matt brought up, I mean, excuse me, Steve brought up here is a defenseman from San Jose. In terms, and I want to look at his contract. I believe Timothy Ligrin is a right-handed shot defenseman. He's a solid option. He's 6'1", 201. Good skater, very solid. He is from Sweden, so he would be a countryman with a guy like Rasmus. I don't think that would be a negative at all in terms of that. He's had a couple years with Toronto. He had 23 points a couple times with the Leafs. He had 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points with the Sharks. Very responsible defenseman. That would be a very nice pairing. $3 million for that guy for one more season. I would be on board with that, Steve. And then maybe you could extend him somehow if he really works out and see where that goes. And I think that's a manageable contract the Sabres could work with for sure. So that's something I would like to see as well. Now, in terms of what he said about Jared McCann, I think would be a very nice addition for the Buffalo Sabres. And I think it's something that Seattle would consider because The Kraken are starting, they have a lot of young guys coming up through the system. You have Seneke, I believe. They got some other guys down in their system. They're probably itching to get up here. Seattle's still sort of in a long-term build. They're really not looking to compete right now. Now, McCann is 29. He plays left wing and center. He's got a $5 million contract for the next 2 years. Pretty valuable. One problem, the old modified no trade. He's got 10 teams on the list, so they'll have to discuss that. He is an Ontario kid, so maybe a guy, I should say. So maybe he would consider coming to the area. He's had 70. Here's the last 3 years, folks. 70 points, 62, and 61. We put this guy in the middle of our top six. That would be a very, very nice addition to the Buffalo Sabres. I like the versatility. And again, he's had 30 goals the last, no, he had 40 goals a couple years ago. And then 29. He only had 22 last year. Some of that he was a little snake bit. But you also what I like about Jared McCann? 79 games played, 80 games played, 82 games played. Durable. That's the kind of player I want. Those are the kind of guys I'm looking for on this Buffalo Sabre roster. If you told me we get him today, Steve, in a trade for Bowen Byram, I'm good. I feel like the Sabres are a better team now than they were. Yep. And this is what I like what Matt said. Lindgren and Darlene is the top pairing and slots everyone correctly. That's important right there. Slotting everyone correctly. Excuse me. I need more coffee. That's very important to the defense as a group. So, a lot of us we play video games, right? We play NHL, we play Madden. Sometimes you can sign all these great defensemen, but that's not how it works in real hockey. Hockey, more than almost any sport, synergy is so important. Having the right types of players in on your lines to do the certain tasks that you need to do. You just can't get a bunch of snipers and put them on the top line. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to have certain options, and that's why I like some of the moves that Adam's making, like a Josh Stone. You read his profile. I got fired up watching some stuff about Josh Stone. He goes above and beyond. He's a great teammate. Like we're hearing this a lot about the guys they're bringing in, and that's a welcome breath of fresh air for me as a Sabre fan. I want players that want to be here. Again, this is going to take some time to manifest itself or really come to fruition and show its true benefits for the Sabres, but it's definitely a nice welcome change in some cases to what's going on in Saberland. Now, as far as where can Bowen Byram go? Let's circle back to Bowen Byram, right? Now, some of the rumors have sort of dwindled away a little bit. Obviously, St. Louis has been a hot team that has been linked to a guy like a Bowen Byram. Now, the problem with St. Louis is now St. Louis has only $600,000 in cap space. They got everybody signed, but they're right up against it. So you have to think about that for them. Jordan Kairou's no trade clause has kicked in. It's a full no trade clause, folks. So there's no 10 teams. He can do whatever he wants. Um, so maybe another guy I would consider he's a veteran of Braden Shen, 33 years old, center winger. I know he's not what he once was, 6.5 million for the next 3 years, but that'd be a solid option for the Sabres too. But he also has that no trade. Another guy we've heard of, and I would love this move, is Jake Neighbors. Guy makes 3.75 million. Jake Neighbors he had 46 points in 82 games this past year. 56 minutes plays with a little grit. I feel like Jake Neighbors is a guy that is a player that the Sabres would give away, and then he would take the next step somewhere else. Now we did this with Paterka. We'll have to see how that works. But we could do the reverse here and maybe get a guy like Jake Neighbors. He's still going to be a tough get. I'm sure the Blues really have plans for him, but that's someone I would really target if I were going to talk to the Blues. They could also consider talking to the Blues about seeing if they can get Justin Falk to waive his no trade. He's a 33-year-old right-handed shot defenseman, makes 6.5 million the next 2 years. Maybe the Blues would love to move off of that deal to free up some money for some of the other players that they're going to eventually have to sign, like a Dylan Holloway and some others like that. So there's some options there with St. Louis. That's just one team. Another team that could be considered is the Calgary Flames. So we'll get into that as well. And we got some great comments in the group chat here. And we're going to get into one. And it's funny because as far as I don't think this is a fit for Bowen Byram, okay? But Steve hit the guy that I really wanted to talk about today. McTavish would be a nice piece to get as well. Now, some of you may know I live by Anaheim. I would say if I had, I don't even like to call them a second team, but if I have a team that I really pay attention to a little bit as well, Sabres, I pay attention to the Ducks. They're in my backyard. I go to some games sometimes just for the hell of it. They're 15 minutes down the street from me. So I like to pay attention to them. And I like some of the moves they've been doing this offseason. And now Mason McTavish is a restricted free agent. He is also a guy with versatility, a center, left winger. He's 22 years old, left-handed shot. Mason McTavish this year had 52 points, 22 goals, 30 assists. 2 years before, 43 and 42. I feel like Mason McTavish is a guy that is ready to take that next step pretty soon. Now, this may not sit well with you, Sabre fans, but if I have to give up a Yuri Kulik in a package to get Mason McTavish, I'm not hesitating because Mason McTavish is getting close to what we think Kulik could be and more. McTavish is a third overall pick in a great draft. He's got oodles of talent. I think he really started coming on last year. I would be very comfortable giving him a 6-7 long-term deal, $7 million. Put him as one of my top six. You could put him at center. And I've sort of accelerated the timeline of a Yuri Kulik now. Would love to do it. And if they're interested in Bowen Byram, then let's talk. Right? Anaheim's got tons of cap space. I mean, they have so much. They have $28 million in cap space. So I would love to see this team consider Mason McTavish. I feel like he's the guy. And this is like Matt said as well. He also mentioned Mason McTavish. Marco Rossi's another guy. We've heard about him for a while, and now it's gone quiet, but he's still out there. I could see the Sabres still being interested in a Marco Rossi as well. That would give us another center to pair with one of the top guys. And folks, I like Yuri Kulik, but I'm not afraid to move him. I'm not. Yuri Kulik is a nice player, but he's still raw. He's not ready to be a top center yet. Marco Rossi, Mason McTavish are at that age in development where they are ready to take that now. We want a guy that can be young, but a piece that could take that next step now. We can't afford to wait 3 years for Yuri Kulik. I'm sorry, I'd love him, but he should be on the third line right now. And if we brought in, just like here Matt said, you bring in a guy like Brian Rust or maybe a guy like Ricard Raquel, that could work as well. So and it pushes again, it pushes the other players, like Matt said, about putting guys in the right place, right? We have some good young players, but even as Zach Benson, I love him. I'm not sure if he's ready to be a top line guy yet. Could he be? 100%. Absolutely. You look at the way the Ducks developed, even a guy like McTavish, they didn't push him along. They didn't overwhelm him, and you see how he's progressing nicely now. And he's ready to take that next step. If I am the Sabres, I'm all over Mason McTavish. I am finding a way to get him. I like him better than Marco Rossi, but I like Marco Rossi too. But yeah, if you give me a lingering here, Matt, and you give me a Rossi or McTavish, I'm feeling better about this Buffalo Sabres this season. Is it enough to make up those 12, 14 points we need to make the playoffs? I'm not so sure because the East is getting better and better. These teams behind us are right in front of us are really starting to improve. So that's going to be the tough call right now for the Buffalo Sabres. But this off season to me is just getting started. We think of look at all the names we just mentioned: Marco Rossi, Mason McTavish. We talked about the Blues. We talked about Lindgren. There's still plenty of options out there in the trades, but the Sabres are going to have to get creative. They're going to have to get aggressive, and they're going to have to get a little uncomfortable. Unlike years past, Kevin Adams is going to have to say to himself, you know what? I still got $13 million in cap space. We only need a couple guys signed. They could still move off a guy. They could still buy out our favorite defenseman, and you know who it is, Matthias Samuelsson, and they could save almost $4 million on the cap. And they'll have plenty of room to bring in plenty of bigger options on this team. So most of the roster is set though in terms of the top. I mean, we could even see in a trade a guy like Peyton Krebs get moved if they have to. I love Krebs, but listen, again, if it takes getting if moving Peyton Krebs takes the top six forward. Fine. Other things that happened since we were gone are we did sign Ryan McLeod, $5 million a year for 4 years. I think a lot of us pretty much nailed that contract. I I like Ryan McLeod, right? My only concern about it's an overpay for me, and I'll tell you why. McLeod got top 6 minutes when he probably shouldn't have. I still love him as a third option. I still love what he brings. I mean, he's one of the fastest skaters in the world. He's dynamic, but his numbers were a little inflated last year because of a need, and he juiced his numbers up and he got paid. So, but it's fine. He wanted to be here. I like it. We got him for 4 years. Congratulations to Ryan McLeod. It's something I'm not really complaining about. In a perfect world, I would like to see it about $4 million instead of five. But what are we talking about here? The Sabres never go to the cap anyway, so why are we worried about it, right? We got a guy uh, come in here. So, and this right here, this is another guy. This is the thing about this team. And Steve coming with the thunder today. Ryan Johnson would be a great pairing with Timmins. Samuelson and Timmins would have difficulty getting the puck out in the zone. I agree. And Ryan Johnson, Steve, costs a lot less. Ryan Johnson, I feel like guy that's been ping ponged around with this team. And I feel like he could really I feel I'd love to see him just get a clear shot with the Sabres and get those consistent minutes. And I still think he's part of their plan. It's just hard to say where. In terms of that. But again, I really like some of the depth the Sabres have added on the back end on defense. I like we're not hurting for right-handed shot guys now. I really like the Zach Jones move. That was just a why not, a total low risk move that could pay off. Um, I talked to some Ranger fans. I'm very in tune with the Rangers. They all told me, listen, he's a guy. He only had he had 11 points in 46 games last year, but he doesn't get a ton of minutes with the Rangers. But he still has some potential. I mean, they all like him. So I really thought that was a why not type move. Again, if that could push Bryson off the roster, I'm all for it. I think that's an addition by subtraction. But so I like what they've done. And this is another thing. Doan and Danforth. We haven't even talked about Danforth yet. Do not take a shift off. See, those are the things that I like. Again, I hate to give, I'm not sitting here saying Kevin Adams is great and he's doing all these great things. I still have a lot of issues with Kevin Adams, but at least they're trying to bring in some of these guys. Those are the type of players in hockey you need, those type of guys that give maximum effort. That could be the difference between wins and losses in some cases. That could be the difference between not going on a 13-game winless streak. I digress. But just that, and over a course of a long season, you need guys like that because then it goes through the whole locker room, right? And that's important too. The message that you're trying to send a team that's been frustrated. You even heard Tage Thompson's comments during the offseason. Sounds a little frustrated to you at times, doesn't he? So that in itself, um, you have to send a message to the organization. And that's the other reason why I want to see Adams get aggressive here is imagine Rasmus Dahlin or Tage Thompson. These guys have, Dahlin voices displeasure to Kevin Adams, as we know, after the deadline, which I'm happy he did. In terms of, hey, this is what I want. I'm the captain, right? And he stepped up and made his voice clear. Imagine Dahlin sitting on a beach somewhere, wherever he's doing for the off season, and here's that the Sabres got themselves a really nice, like a Mason McTavish or a Rossi, or made a big trade for even a Jordan Kyrou if they could get him to waive his no trade. That's going to be a tall order now, but let's say they did. You know what kind of message that sends the team? You know what Tage Thompson's going to think? It's like, yes, like, you're going to do a little pump fist. Yes, this team's showing me they're going to give me something to play with here to try to break that 14-game winless streak, drought, excuse me, playoff drought. So, and I agree with Matt. Urgency is huge this year. They need to just get in. Matt, at least they need to operate like it, right? I mean, it's gonna be hard to guarantee. Again, if you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, let's just look at some of the teams around us. Have the Detroit Red Wings gotten better this offseason? Yes. They added John Gibson. That was a good move for them in goal. They're gonna be a tougher team now. to play against. Philadelphia Flyers, I think, are even getting better too. They're doing some nice moves, but I'm not sure if it's going to show itself yet. But they're going to be in the mix too. Ottawa's getting better, but I don't think we're close to Ottawa at this point in terms of the playoffs. Uh, Teams like New Jersey, they're going to get healthy. They're going to be way better this year. The Rangers, I thought, got better this offseason. It may seem weird, but I think they did. Um, so I think the Rangers, if Shesterkin bounces back, they're going to be a tougher team to get over for the Buffalo Sabres. So you just look at all these teams that are sort of in that muck in the middle for the playoffs. It's going to be a tall order for the Sabres. And of course, we haven't even talked about Montreal, who made the big move for Noah Dobson. They have oodles of good young talent on that roster that and if you're not paying attention to what's going on in Montreal right now, you better because but this is a team, they're over the cap. They're gonna have to make some moves too to get under. But with guys like Shavkowski, Caulfield, and Suzuki, smart contracts, all gave them 7 million across the board. Helps with that ridiculous cap problem that they have. Maybe they got to move up Patrick Laine. Maybe there's a team that could weaponize cap space to make that happen. I wonder who that could be. Uh, but anyway, I just got to throw out some jokes here on this Saturday morning. But and then you're gonna have you have Ivan Demidov. If you haven't heard of this guy, 19 years old, he is gonna be dynamite. And I hate to say this for Montreal, but it's just the way it's gonna be. He is just gonna be an absolute monster in the NHL. So Montreal, but again, is Montreal ready to take that next true step? I don't know yet. So there's still an opportunity for Buffalo to do it. And we all know, folks, and I hate to just say, oh, just remove the 13 games. But I'm going to do it with the Sabres because something weird happened that December. They had a lot of bad luck. They had a lot of bad breaks that didn't go their way. Darlene was injured. If you took away the 13 games and just watched this Sabre season, they actually played pretty well. That's the craziest part about it. I think they were 8 games over 500 or 9 games over 500. Like they played pretty solid hockey from 3/4 of the season. That's the weirdest thing about this Sabre team. But the other thing is they won a lot of games late when a lot of teams were just whatever. They're they're getting ready for the playoffs. They're playing backup goalies, so we got to be careful how much we take from that as well. I could see this too, Matt. I could see, yeah, Crosby is. Well, I don't think he's from Quebec, but they said privately that he has probably wanted to play with the Canadians at some point. I could see it, Matt. It's weird, Matt. I know you've always been a Pittsburgh guy too. You lived there for a bit. I don't really want to see Crosby move off the Penguins. I really want to see him stay there for his whole career, but I do have a feeling he is going to leave Pittsburgh at some point. Pittsburgh's probably going to be tanking for McKenna. That's going to be an interesting dynamic as the season goes along too. So I want to see the Buffalo Sabres play both sides of the fence here on that. Speaking of McKenna, now we learned from the Eichel Connor McDavid exercise, and back then the Sabres had a way better chance to get the pick than they do now in terms of the 2026 lottery. They have a lesser chance now to get that top pick. But here's what I'm telling you. I would trade my 2026 first, but only, and I mean only, if it's top 3 or 4 protected. I am not moving that pick unprotected unless you're telling me we're getting like a real Kaprizov. It's some wild deal, but there's no way I'm even doing it. So, and this is something else that I want to circle back with Matt on. Goaltending is an issue. If they get average goaltending for UPL, they would have made the playoffs. I agree, Matt. This is something that we spoke about a lot with the Buffalo Sabres. If you think about any of you as old as me, even if you're not, and if you old days, goaltending was always a staple. Tom Barrasso, even Darren Pupa was great for a couple of years. Ryan Miller, of course. Dominic Hasek, of course. Martin Baron. They've always had really strong goaltending through, I believe, the first 40 years of this franchise. We made the playoffs 33 years. And I believe the Sabres, if I remember correctly, had the fourth highest winning percentage in hockey over those first 40 years. Those numbers sound foreign to you now, don't they? I mean, but that's what the Sabres were. They were a very strong, solid organization. They always had lunch pail guys that went to work. We had some dynamic scorers over the years too, LaFontaines, Turgeons. We had players like that, and but that's what the Sabres need to get back to. They need to get back to. My dad always said this with the Bills. It's a weird thing. He always talks about the when the Bills were struggling in their day. They said they need a heartbeat. They need a guy that kind of personifies that fire and desire to really win for Buffalo. Josh Allen is that, right? He called me when he first watched Josh, and he watched him. He said, "Brian's son, they got their heartbeat back." And I know my dad isn't as tuned in with these teams as we are, but it was a great comment. And I agree with him on the Sabres. The Sabres need that heartbeat back. They need that. They need guys that want to be here, that go to work and they play hard. They get the fans excited. Like that's what we want, right? I mean, I don't want to talk about tanking anymore. I'm done with all that. So, yep. And this is something too, you know. And just to go back to what Matt said about the goaltending, I like the Leon signing too. I'm not expecting the world, but I think he gives us that stable option that could maybe we don't have to wear out UPL, or maybe he supplants him. Maybe Devin Levi comes out. We'll have to see. That's going to be an interesting story as it develops as the year goes on, for sure. And this is something that Steve said, and I want to bring this up. GMKA, it's Kevin Adams for all you out there, has spent the last 2 years hoping for guys to take a step. Tage never took off till he was 24. Right there. I want you to focus on that comment. Not sure why this happens at age 24. Quinn, Krebs, and Doan are at that age. I want you all to think back. Listen, I'm 51 years old, okay? When I was 20 to 24, 25, big difference. I was 20 years old. I was a college kid, didn't know what he was doing, partying, studying, trying to get through St. John's in New York. you know, Thought I knew everything, but I didn't know really crap. Okay. 24, 25, you start getting in the real world. You start working, you start, your first car payment, your first job, gotta get the new clothes. You gotta be an adult. You gotta start acting like an adult. There is a difference. 20 to 24 is a big difference, Steve. I think your point is excellent. And you look at Quinn. Quinn's another guy too. We haven't even spoke about that extension. And I didn't mind it. There's still things about Jack Quinn. Poor Jack Quinn, he was a little snake bit. That injury was a serious one he had. So mentally that takes about a couple years to get over as well. So it's just gonna take some time on that. Krebs, I think Krebs is what he is. I think Krebs has transformed himself into a real pesky third, fourth line option that could have a really nice career in NHL. I love Krebs. He could be a fan favorite. Um, for this team. He was originally a first round pick by the Knights, I think middle of the first round, if I believe. So, but he's definitely found himself a nice niche. And I still think he could be a 30-point guy. I still think he could throw some points in there too. I love Doan. I'm telling you guys right now, Doan is going to be one of the most popular players on this team this time next year. Mark it down. I don't care what the record is. Fans are going to love watching Josh Doan play hockey. Great pedigree. His father, Shane Doan, was a great player. I just think he's going to be that guy. And that's a great comment by Steve. I really love that. So, and and I agree to you here with Matt. Quinn had a reset last year because of the injuries. I think he fully breaks out. Matt, listen, I think it's possible. He's got a great shot. Jack Quinn has such amazing hands. He's got an elite shot. Hard to move off those guys in this league. He needs consistency. Quinn needs to be on the ice, have a consistent role, and have a consistent, solid, even a playmaking guy next to him that could feed him the puck. That's something else too. So that's it. Pagula heard Doe for Paterka thought they were getting shade. Yeah, probably. So we're getting shade. No, yes. Hey, but the solution's in the room. Just remember, Terry Pagula said it. So, solution definitely isn't with Terrence Pagula. I'll tell you that right now. So we'll leave that alone. But yeah, we got about 6 minutes left live here, so we'll take it for a few more minutes. So what's next for the Buffalo Sabres going forward? Well, again, we spoke at the top about the new offseason in NHL. The new offseason is from July 1st till August 31st. It's not just July 1st anymore. July 1st is for those drunken sailors. They're they're spending money that they shouldn't. They overspend on certain players. I don't want the Sabres building their team through that. It's nice to get a free agent here and there, I would have loved if they got Nikolai Ehlers. Again, we spoke about it, about the message that would have sent this team. Would have said, "Hey, we mean business now, right? Tell these guys in the locker room. You bring in a guy like Nikolai Ehlers, like, wow, even if it is an overpay, so what? It's okay. You're taking a guy from a team and you're not giving up assets for him. So I call UFA the 20 to 30% rule. You're always going to pay about that much more over than what you should. But remember, if you trade for Nikolai Ehlers, you're probably going to give up a couple assets to do it. I'm not doing it. So I'm keeping those assets and I'm going to overpay for him. So that's the first step here, obviously, is Bowen Byron. We got to figure something out with him. What's going to be happening with him? Keep working those phones, get the best deal you can, find a way to get a guy like Mason McTavish, Jake Neighbors. There are still some options out there, folks. And Nick, just like Steve said about the 24 years old, it's hard to believe Krebs is 24. Feels like he's been a Sabre for 10 years. Kind of feels like that with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen too, right? Feels like they've been here since like Ryan Miller was here. Uh, Now we can't give up Power, Kulik, and Benson. Now I'll say this, Steve. I partly agree with you on that. Owen Power is still 22 years old. That's a good point. But I hope that having a Kesserling with Owen Power settles him down and frees him to do the things he needs to do. Owen Power needs a more of an adult next to him to say, hey, don't worry, you're going to be okay, right? To kind of show him the ropes. Kulik is a guy, I still like him, Steve, but if his cost comes at getting a Mason McTavish, I could live with it because we've again accelerated the time frame on the age. Benson is a guy. I agree with you, Steve. I would love to keep Benson. I think there's something about Benson. I see he could be a special player in this league. I'm not saying I've heard Mitch Marner vibes with him. I don't know if he's ever going to get to 100 points like that, but he could be Mitch Marner light, which there's nothing wrong with that, but with more of an edge. And I think he could be a good playoff player. I think he's one of those guys like Sam Reinhart. I said that for years. If he ever gets in the playoffs, he's going to be a monster, and that's exactly what's happened. I mean, he's got that kind of skill set for it. I think he would be an excellent player. So Power and Benson has to be the perfect package for me. It has to be for like a top number one center for sure, Elias Pettersson type. Like you can't miss on it. But if not, but Kulik is a guy I would consider moving if the price was right. I'm not moving Kulik for picks. I'm not moving Kulik for another 20-year-old. That just makes no sense. I agree with you on that. So it all depends on the context and who they're going to try to get. So going forward, the options for the Sabres are a little bit limited. We've also heard Bowen Byram to Calgary as well. Just wanted to circle back there. I'm not sure who the Sabres could get. That I was considering Joel Farabee as an option. He is a left wing, right wing, 25 years old. He is also a Western New York product, if I believe. I believe he is from Syracuse, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Makes $5 million over the next 3 years. But my problem with him is I like his skill set. He's had 50 points before, 22 goals, but he's played 50 games and only 31 games last year. He's been a little banged up. I don't think obviously he wouldn't be enough for a Byram. That would be part of the deal. A guy that I've always been a little intrigued in, but I don't like the term is Nazem Kadri. I know he's not a favorite of our Matt Diegert, if I remember correctly, but he brings that nastiness and experience that I would not mind this team having. But he makes $7 million over the next 4 years, but he doesn't have a no movement clause, which again lights me up saying, that's a guy we could consider. But we'll see how that goes. We've also heard some rumors maybe about a Connor Zary, 23 years old. I would not mind that. If the Sabres want to overpay and get Connor Zary, I'm good with that too. So we'll see. This is crazy that Beck Benson played 150 games at 20 years old. Yeah, so but again, Steve, I kind of wish he only had about half that or less. I still wish he was in Rochester for a year or so where he was just lighting it up and then they brought him in. I still think they rushed him a little bit, but I hope he overcomes that. And this is something else too. This is another big story this offseason. Jason Robinson, I would agree. The Dallas Stars found the hench from Matt Dumba to get rid of some money. He went to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I have no idea what the hell the Penguins are doing on that move, but they did it. Dallas found a way to move some money off of. They're going to find a way to get that done. But some of the some of the guys in the know still think there's stuff out there with Dallas. I think Dallas is going to look for. Hey, you gotta absolutely wow me for this guy. And I hate to say it, I only think there's one player the Sabres could throw in a deal to get Robinson that will get them to move. And we haven't talked about this guy, and I want to save this for the last segment. Alex Tuck. And I don't think the Buffalo Sabres would want to do that right now. It would have to be an Alex Tuck, Kulik, maybe a first round pick and more for a guy like Robinson. He's a 100-point guy. I mean, you don't those guys don't grow on trees. They're very, very rare that they're available. So that's what it would probably take. Um, Matt puts up Samuelson, Darlene, Kesserling, Power, Johnson, Jones, Timmons. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll go to war with that this year. I'm good. I feel like Samuelson, he had moments with Darlene. I want to sit down, Samuelson, and say, listen, we're wiping the slate clean with you. Get out there, show me a little more of an edge, right? Use that body he's got. Use some of that, right? Just play with Darlene. Maybe Darlene will rub off on him on that. So we'll have to see how that goes. But speaking of Alex Tuck, and we're going to end with this. We're hearing whispers that the Sabres are going to try to aggressively, not aggressively, but they're going to start making offers to Alex Tuck or talk to him through the season. Our Matt Diegert has been on a roll with the extensions. He's been nailing them. So right now, Matt Diegert, I'm gonna bring it up here. He may even be here, so you may be able to put it in here before he'll probably beat me to it. 8 years, $8 million a year is what he is calling for Alex Tuck. I originally was calling for 7, but I'll agree with Matt on the 8. I think it's gonna just take 8 by 8.5 million. I think they're gonna have to give him just a little bit more to keep him here long term. I feel like Alex Tuck is a guy a little bit like a Josh Allen, where I think he would probably take a deal that kind of works good for both sides. So we'll see how that all works out on that front. Hopefully the Sabres get him signed up. I would love to see Alex Tuck stay here for a couple of reasons. He wants to be here. And those guys are not easy to find. We talked about this at nauseum. And yeah, I agree. And this is Matt's full prediction here. Full no movement clause. I'm good with that too. I don't like giving out no movement clauses. I mean, the fact that Jordan Greenway has one is a joke. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't stand it. Jordan Greenway is he's a solid player. But come on, no movement clauses for Jordan Greenway. Come on, what are we doing, NHL? Like they got to do something about that. I don't know what the answer is, but I can't have just average players with no movement clauses. Those should be reserved for the top guys. But I understand why they give them out. I mean, teams got to keep these guys. They got to keep them they want some power to know where they're going to go. They don't want to be shipped off to Winnipeg. I shouldn't say when. I mean, is it a no trade clause? Well, right now, Tuck has, and I think we inherited that from the Knights, if I remember correctly. I'm going to try to bring that up really fast here. Where art thou, Sabres? So Tuck right now has a modified no trade. He only has a 5-team no trade list right now. So I would imagine the Sabres will up that a little bit, give him some more power. In that case, if he wants to stay. Oh, Greenway. I'm sorry, Matt. So Matt wanted to know about Greenway. Greenway has a 5-team no trade as well. I just don't like that these guys have this. It just limits the possibility of trades. And again, I think this is one of the reasons. If you wiped out 80% of no trade clauses, we would have probably 15, 20 more trades right now to talk about in this league, maybe more. It would be unbelievable. We would have so many deals. 8 years for Tuck scare is what Steve says. Perfect bottom 6. Yeah, I agree, Steve. And I think Alex Tuck for 8, let's say we give him 8. I think for 5 or 6 of that, he'll be fine. Now, Alex Tuck has had some injury bugs in his career before, but not lately. So, yeah, I'm good with yeah, they can still buy him out, Matt, too, on Greenway too. I get it. I'm just bothered by the no trade clauses. It just, as a Saber fan, it frustrates me because we can't seem to get off that. So, but I digress. But anyway, but we are probably here about the end of the show. We've been going for over an hour, and I'll tell you, doing this myself, Matt. Oh, it's rough, man. It's an hour or more, but hey, we could talk about the Sabres. But thank goodness for you. Thank goodness for Steve. You guys are Steve, you're fantastic as always. Matt and I really appreciate what you bring to the show. Again, want to welcome Eric Anthony. We saw him in here for a second. Wish he would have stuck around, gave us some more comments, but thanks for coming on. We saw briefly our guy, Real Deal Prime. He only made a quick comment today, but it was good to see him as well. So yeah, that's true. That the trade deadline was just on a roll. And so yep, so we'll see. So yeah, listen, it's sometimes it feels bleak with the Sabres folks, but I still think this offseason has had again, if we're in a dark room and we're looking at the Sabres, I still think there's a little bit of light there focusing out. So hopefully we can continue to build off that. And again, please like and subscribe to our podcast at Do Champions, please. If you are listening, you can find us on Twitter, on all kinds of platforms. I believe Twitch, I believe TikTok and everything. So look for Do Champions. This is where we are. Give us a follow, give us a like, and subscribe to our podcast. That'd be great. And just remember, Third and Manageable with Matt Diegert and Student Body Right for all great Bills talk football. Great guests they always have. We have a lot of great shows coming up. A lot of exciting things as the Bills get ready to kick off their season. Myself and Whittle do our coast to coast on Wednesdays with the great one. Whittle just he's worth the price of admission. So please join us if you can. Look for Matt and I coming up with the Sabres. We're going to give you more great content as we go forward into the season. We're very excited for it. Hopefully, the Sabres give us some excitement to build with that. Um, but we may have a new date and time. Look for that as well. We'll try to make it something good for you all going forward. And you know what? This is a great. Steve, you've been on a roll today. Many are worried about replacing Paterka's 27 goals. The guy we acquired, the guys may save us 50 goals. That's a great point. That's what we talk about building a team. The Sabres need a team. They need those guys that will do those things. They'll take those take chances, the dirty work. It's a 4-3 game late, and Josh Stone's diving all over the place to block shots and we win games. Those are the kind of things we got to get. We'll find goals, folks. Some of these young guys will step up and supplant some of those Paterka goals. I'm telling you, I'm not even worried about losing Paterka. I'm telling you right now, the more I think about it, I'm good. And I still think the Sabres will add a top six guy somewhere here, folks. I'm still confident that by the end of the summer, we're going to have somebody to speak about. Who it is, place your bets. So, again, want to thank you all for joining us today. We're going to get out of here on this Saturday morning here in California. Hope you and yours are well. I hope you're enjoying your summer. Look for us again. We're going to have some announcements about when we're going to be on and how we're going to do it. But thanks for joining us, folks. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. And we will leave you with one more roll of this and have a great one. Bye bye. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you as well. And go. How about this? Let's go Sabres. Let's get something done here soon, guys. So hopefully you'll have some great news to talk about here. Take care, everyone.